Hey there everybody, it's Mark Curley. I'm back with another How to Draw video, and today we're going to be learning how to draw Chibi style L from Death Note. Now, what I did to prepare for this was to make a drawing of the real L, at least the way he appears in the manga, and I thought what I could do is pull this out periodically and compare the differences between the sort of realistic version of the character and the Chibi version, and we can see what changes from one to the other, and in that way hopefully this video expands into more of a general video about how characters are turned into Chibi versions of themselves. Now what I'm going to do is pull out a ruler here. We're going to get just 3 basic additional guidelines in here. The first one is going to tell us where the tops of the eyes are going to be really quite low when you think about it. On this first circle. I should say that, to begin following this lesson, you're going to have to get 2 circles exactly the same size, one of them shifted over a little to one side. Anyway, that line that I just drew there is going to be a guideline for the upper edge of the eyes. And then we're going to put in another line here that's going to be sort of the tops of the knees. He's going to be in more or less the exact same pose that you saw a minute ago in that realistic version. And so that goes for the tops of the knees right there. And then one final line is just going to sort of be a dividing line between that shows where the line of one of the knees points up towards the head, basically. And I think that's all we really need, these 3 different guidelines to get us started. So let's go ahead and start to draw the face. Okay, now we've got this circle here that is really not just for the head, but all the way up through the hair. It's just a basic guideline that will show us how to do all of that. What I want to do to begin with is to get in the contour line of his cheek. In fact, let me go ahead and refocus so we're a little closer in on this part. Okay, well that's about as tight as I can get in on this. So we're going to start drawing the contour of the cheek. So when you look at this top circle, watch how the line that I'm drawing here sort of curves down. It slices into that bottom circle. And right around where it reaches this line, this diagonal vertical line, that's where the chin is going to be, maybe just a touch behind that. And then we draw that line coming right back up until it rejoins the circle. And then, you guessed it, we're just going to go ahead and erase this because basically all we've done is, got the shape of the head the way we want it to be. We no longer need that initial line of the circle. Be gone, initial line. We won't be needing you anymore. So let's go ahead and start working on one of the eyes. And this first eye is, as I said, we got a line here for the upper edge of it. And maybe I banished that line a little too early, because in a way you could have used, had I not erased it, that that bottom line is sort of a guideline for where the bottom of the bottom eyelash goes. So, boy, did I learn my lesson there. Got a little trigger happy with the eraser. Anyway, so this is one of the eyes, and notice the amount of the white of the eyes that's left over as I draw in this iris. Whenever you're drawing eyes, you always want to pay attention to where the iris is interrupted or overlapped by the upper eyelid. And then make sure that that remaining space that you have, the whites of the eyes, that you're replicating that as well. Let's move on then to drawing. Well, I think what I'll do is draw the hair, actually, because that might help you get some of the guideline action going on here. Let's have, boy, I'm sorry, the light is, I don't want to cast a shadow, so I'm going to come over here. I'll tell you, complications. So there's going to be this big thick strand of hair here. Let me go ahead and pull out realistic L. As you can see there, even in the realistic one, there tends to be this one big strand that comes down between the eyes. So that's what I'm replicating. You're going to try to simplify things. Anytime, that's drawing Chibi characters is always mainly about simplifying, I find, and getting rid of all but the most essential lines. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of make a window here through which we will be able to see this remaining eye. So if you want to try to follow along, those of you who are trying to do so. And this guideline process I'm going to try to do mainly real time. may have to resort to time-lapse for some of the other stuff. But then there's this strand of hair that I'm drawing that comes down along the side, sort of frames the face, although you're not going to really see the other side of it over there. I'm going to come over here actually and tweak the shape of this cheek just a little. Just a little. And that kind of does it for that hair that I'm doing for now. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the second eye, which is nestled right over here. Now, one thing I noticed as I studied, excuse me, the different versions of L is that you never see his eyebrows. So I thought I would ask my viewers, does he in fact have eyebrows of any kind? Or has he shaven them off as part of some ritual? Who knows? We'll find out when I read the comments. But I'm going to come over here and draw again the iris in more or less the same location. Maybe it's a little larger, it's a little closer to us. But he's got a relaxed look. Sometimes you'll see the sort of bug-eyed looking L, which you are welcome to attempt if you want to. Now I'm going to go ahead and finally erase this other circle line so that I can realize I still needed it and apologize a few minutes from now. Oh, I shouldn't have erased that one either. Anyway, I'm erasing all of this stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and drop in the mouth. Now, those of you who are into Chibi drawings, you will recall that Chibi illustrations often have no nose at all, and I'm going to adhere to that principle. There will be no nose in this illustration. If you wanted to draw a nose, it would probably come in here, thereabouts, a little shifted over to one side because he's turning away from us, but I am going to skip the nose because that's just how I roll. And once I've got that in place, maybe I can move on, pick up the pace a little bit here in terms of drawing the hair without resorting to time-lapse. But try to move along a little here in drawing the hair. As I said, this big circle serves as a guideline really for the hair itself. Although this section over here is going to kind of come off of it, going to go beyond it. But when we reach the top, say up here, I'm actually going to be following that circle more or less exactly as I draw further strands. And notice how the hair reaches a point here. Again, let's pull out Realistic L to help us out. Good to have you back, Mr. L. And you'll see that the hair is curving in this direction. Then it reaches a sort of point here where it begins to curve in the opposite direction. So I'm trying to replicate that in my chibiized version. Make sure that's staying in the frame. Okay, good deal. So yeah, you're getting basically, for the facial features, when you're trying to make a chibi version of a popular character, you want to make sure you get the hair fairly similar. The hair becomes one of the big distinguishing characteristics. And since you're deprived of the nose, you really do have to sort of focus on getting the eyes right. Very often, Chibi characters have a sort of some people will give all of their Chibi characters sort of generically the same type of eyes, but I feel that with L, his eyes, the way they are drawn in the original manga, are so distinctive that you don't want to do a sort of generic big shiny eye. You want to get his eyes to have that distinctive L look. Sounds like I'm speaking Spanish. El look. Sorry. That's, even for me, that was bad. That was real bad. Anyway, let's move on to drawing the body. I think I'll go ahead and reshift the focus here. Okay, so we've moved down here, and this diagonal line that I drew in back at the beginning serves as the line of one of the legs, or lower part of the legs. And so I'm going to begin by drawing these sort of two knees, although this knee is going to get covered up by his hand, so I'm not really going to draw that so much. But this knee is fully visible. And notice if you're going to use the circle as helping you get these lines in the right place, that the cuff of this leg, pant leg, actually lines up very neatly with that circle that I put in there. And now it's time to draw this other hand where he's got his thumb up there near his mouth. And so we are simplifying things, and a lot of times different people, when they draw chibi characters, will radically simplify the hands so that they just look like little snowballs almost. But in the case of this drawing of L, I think we do have to get a little more anatomical accuracy going on with the fingers and so forth, so as to allow us to read this pose, you know, of the thumb up at the lip and the hand on the that he's resting on his own knee. But I am going to sort of simplify the fingers. Instead of trying to draw 4 fingers, I'm just drawing 3. Sort of classic cartoonist technique there. And that sort of gets that in place. Notice that it's sort of behind the knee, but then the thumb is coming up in front of the face. And there's a little hint, I'm putting in a little hint of the elbow. Again, this is, you see this in the original drawing. You can see a little peeking out there of his elbow. And let's go ahead and get this hand in here, like I said, resting on the knee. Again, greatly simplified. You know, I think you can get it. It almost starts to look a little like an animal paw or something. Just you get that basic shape, and then maybe just a few lines coming up to separate it. Notice that in the original pose, the cuff of his shirt is coming well over his wrist. So I'm going to replicate that as well. And now comes the fun part of getting in this arm, and you know, nicely this circle tells us basically where the back is going to be. You may want to have that line slice in a little into the interior of that circle. But once you've got that in line, the sort of shoulder line in place, then you can begin to indicate the rest of this arm. And it's sort of, you know, I'm using a lot of curving lines. That's not necessary to all chibi drawings. You could get a little more angular with your lines. I kind of want them to be cute and cuddly. So. Cute, cuddly L. Sounds like I'm talking about a plush doll version of him. But we get that in place, and then I'm going to just do a quick little indication of the top of his shirt. Collar, that was the word I was searching for and failing to find. And then, you know, one thing that it changes a lot, I think, from chibi drawings, from real drawings to chibi drawings, is the amount of wrinkles and clothing wrinkles. You know, you can see that there's probably 20 or 30 different little wrinkles there. We are definitely not going to try to replicate all of them. When we do this chibi version, I'd say really just like 1 or 2 lines here, maybe 1 line at the cuff, a line around the collar. That you're basically just, as I said at the beginning, sort of reducing it to the bare minimum. So he has got his shirt untucked. I'm pretty sure that's a standard for L. Has he ever tucked in his shirt in his entire life? I'm thinking no. But this, again, his butt, L's butt is right up here against this circle. That's why putting in a circle there at the beginning is pretty helpful as a guideline. Getting a couple of lines in here, wrinkles, as they tend to form at the knees, especially when the leg is bent at the knee. I'm drawing just a little line here that's the seam. At least I think that's what it's called. The man who never knows the name for anything, but hopefully that is a seam. I'm going to erase a little of the initial circle there so that you see how I did the cuff. And the last thing that we really need to do here real time is to draw the feet. And again, a lot of times people will greatly minimize the feet of chibi characters and not bother to draw any details at all. I think there is an aspect of, you know, L being barefoot a lot of the time in situations where people would normally have shoes on, and so we want to replicate that. And then also you'll notice that his toes are always sort of clamping down, sort of crinkling down. That's he has this very distinctive way of putting his feet, and so I'm trying to replicate that in my Chibi version of him, which again I would just not normally think to do with Chibis. The feet are generally not emphasized, but it seems to me that you can sort of come up with your own rules as you go in terms of what you feel is necessary to show in a Chibi character. And that, my friends, is basically it. Let's pull back and sort of compare visually the key differences between the Chibi version and the realistic version, and then we'll be able to move on to the sort of final line work and shading. Okay, so there you see the two of them side by side, and you can see how drastically we've altered the proportions, and yet how we've tried to hold on to the key elements that make L look like L. So I'm going to go ahead and refocus and in time-lapse do the line work, and maybe try to do a little bit of the shading real time, but I think that also is going to have to be largely time-lapse. My apologies, but hopefully you found it helpful to do all of the basic line work in real time, those of you who like to follow along. And otherwise, yeah, let's move on to the next part of the process. Alright, so I finished all of the final line work with my trusty black Prismacolor colored pencil, and now it's time to move on to the shading. As I said, I can't do all of this real time, but I am going to do, I've decided to color the hair in a pretty minimalist way. Now, as you know, the original inked version of Elle's hair is rather complex with these white highlights and so forth. I'm just going to sort of get stylized here and avoid that whole aspect by shading everything in and then just having a very subtle indication of highlight, a single band of lighter area that goes across the middle, as you often will see in Chibi illustrations. And, you know, it saves you the trouble, first of all, of working out where all those little white highlights will go. It generally looks pretty good no matter what Chibi character you're working on, especially if you are one of those people who are like, well, everything looked great until I started shading in the hair, and then I feel like I ruined my drawing by getting tangled up in, oh, if you'll excuse the pun, tangled up in all of the complications of trying to get the line work in on the hair. Well, you can kind of save yourself that whole potential mess by simply shading it all in. And notice how I'm holding my pencil very low to the paper so as to get a very wide section of the graphite down there near the page, and then you get this very smooth, undifferentiated area of kind of dark gray. And so let's sort of pretend that I've already completed that, which I really haven't. I'm going to have to go back in and work on that with greater care. But my idea was that there would be an area of highlight that sort of sweeps across the middle of the hair here, and that we will eventually reveal that by darkening in the areas above and below that band. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this real time, but again, a lot of it's going to have to be time lapse. But by darkening in these other areas, you will begin to have a sort of leftover band of lighter gray, which will serve as your main highlight. And you may even choose to go back in here and sort of erase away a little so as to accentuate the idea that this is, light glinting off of his hair. But that gives you the basic idea of my approach, and even though I am going to complete this in time-lapse, you'll probably have a sense of how I did it. So let's go ahead and finish this thing up. Alright, Alright, well there's my video on how to draw a chibi version of L. It really is interesting to compare it with the more realistic version and see just how different it really is. I'm going to try something new with this video. I want to do a few shout-outs here at the end. To Tim J. Thompson, Manga Mania over there at Twitter. He is really one of my biggest Twitter supporters, always there with a fave or a reply. Also, over here at YouTube, Aya-chan and Monica Rios have noticed them repeatedly leaving encouraging comments, and really great to see people so fully engaged. But let's go ahead and thank anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books. We've got Brody's Ghost and Miki Falls, my two graphic novel series, both of those widely available at online booksellers. And here's Mastering Manga and Mastering Manga 2, this one just having come out. And what have we here but Manga Masterclass mit Mark Krüli. Sorry for the terrible German accent there. Probably lost all of my German viewers with that. But it is awesome to know that people are out there getting those books, supporting me that way. But let's go ahead and lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back with another one real soon.